I knew that in order to create a great culture of people that wanted to be there, that cared about your clients, that did a good job, you want them to feel valued. You don't want to put them in a box and stick them there and tell them what they have to do and when they have to do it and how they have to do it. You want to give people freedom and flexibility and kindness, and they're going to do a much better job for you, for your clients, for your company, than if you force them to do certain things and you make them feel like they're being punished, or you put all these restrictions on them. They're not going to perform as well.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Anchoring Hope, where we're shining the light during these last days by interviewing amazing entrepreneurs that are really changing this world for a better place using their faith and their values. So today we have with us Jennifer. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for making the time, Jennifer. For the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Absolutely. Jennifer Barnes. I am the CEO and founder for Optima Office. We're located in Southern California, San Diego specifically, but we do serve clients all across the United States as well as internationally. And we are a fractional CFO, controller, bookkeeping, and human resource firm.
That's awesome. Tell me exactly what does your business do? What does fractional CFO mean?
Fractional is just really another way to say part-time. And that means instead of having one full-time person doing myriad of tasks, maybe some that they're not good at, it means having the right person doing what they're good at every level, but on a part-time basis. So that means a business could have a controller 1 day a week. It could be 1 day a month. They could have a controller 3 days a week. They could have a CFO, 4 hours a week or 4 hours a month, like really whatever they need. If they have a good bookkeeping team, we work above them. And if they don't have a good bookkeeping team or anybody to do the day-to-day transactions, then we can do that work as well. We don't offshore, so all of our people are local. We have about 100 W-2 employees here at Optima. And we also do human resources. So kind of the same thing. You can have an HR person a few hours a month, or you can have them a few hours a day. It really just kind of depends on how many employees an organization has and then how many problems they might have. Certain industries have more problems than others just naturally. And so it really depends on the nature of the business and other facets of the company, how much they would actually need human resource support.
It's interesting that you are in this field. I knew a bit about having this type of high-level professionals, but only on the IT industry because my background is IT. So I will get CTOs, CIOs, and one executive will set up 4 or 5 different businesses. But I didn't know you could actually do it with HR and with accounting too. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the old model of Betty the bookkeeper doing everything, from the HR, the bookkeeping to the financials. I mean, I hate to say it's a dying breed, but literally, it's almost impossible to find somebody who is good at all of those things. And so being able to use fractional services to support the growth of any type of company, it's so efficient, it's so cost effective, and you really do get the right person doing what they're good at each level.
And also for the time that you need it, so that you don't have to spend a lot of money trying to get an executive that you won't utilize to the top, right? To the maximum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you found this company?
I did, yes. I had founded 2 companies in this space. So my first organization I ran for about 6 years. Took about 6 years for me to get that to about 6-7 million in revenue. And Optima has been around a little longer than my first company. We're at 6.5 years right now. And the first company I had partners. The second company I do not. Just did it, me owning 100% of this organization. And we were able to get it to 12 million in about 5 years. So definitely faster growth and, just a different type of organization than I had the first time around. Kind of learn lessons, right? You're like, what worked really well? Let's keep doing it. Who did you happen to inherit at a first company that you definitely wouldn't hire again, or you don't want on your new team? And then what are the values and the mission? And can you do something different that's even going to be better? And I know that this really resonates with you is, be a good person, do the right thing, help others, and how can we really support businesses and be kind and caring. And so the mission at Optima is really along those lines of giving people opportunity, hiring great, amazing individuals, letting them work flexible hours, and then also helping clients with whatever they need in terms of, what they need right now versus what they need a year from now might change. But it's really helping to support them in their growth and having them, the opportunity to hire more people.
That's beautiful. So all those values, that's what's most important. I mean, like, I've been in business for 20 years, and my struggle every time that I almost went bankrupt was because I forgot my values. And the leader of the organization sets the mood of the organization, whether you see your players or not. It's amazing, but where the head goes, the whole body goes. And that's why I decided to make this channel, actually, because if you align your, biblical scripture, the culture and the values of the Bible of Jesus Christ, and you put it in your life, in your daily life, even if you don't talk about it, if you inherit those values, you will be successful, because there are universal laws that you can actually follow. And you are a clear example of that. So let's talk about your first business. Where were you like 3-4 years before your first business? Where were you at in your life?
I was doing the exact same thing that the people that work for me now do. So I was a controller. I worked for a couple of different organizations at the time. I actually have a big not-for-profit focus. So I would do the financial statements and run the accounting departments for various not-for-profit organizations. And I worked for one of our competitors right before I started my first company. For a couple of years, I worked for them and learned the ropes, and actually serviced about 20 plus clients at the time. It was kind of a lot. But one of the things when I first started my first company is I wanted to have a place where other people would want to work, where I would want to work if I was still a consultant. So how could I develop a culture and an atmosphere that, is so employee friendly? For example, the firm that I worked for, no matter how much I worked, I made the same amount of money. I was on a straight salary, and it was all about how much I could bill, all about billable revenue. And it was a little bit tough because sometimes I'd work 50, 60 hours a week, and there was not a lot of upside to that. If I would work 38 hours a week, I'd get in trouble, right? You're not hitting your billable hours. And so I just really felt a bit demotivated by that model. And I thought, if I was to have my own company, this is how I would do it. And I was so fortunate to be in a position where I could do that. And at Optima and at my first company, we do a revenue share. And so we give 70 of our 100 employees are on a revenue share plan. And that's because they're either in a management position or they're working about 30 hours a week or more. And their base salary is going to be about 30% less, roughly, than what they're actually going to make at the end of the month. And we true up their billable revenue. So if they're a working parent and they want to do 28 to 32 hours every single week, great, no problem, go for it. If a month out of the year they really take on some big projects and they work 50 hours a week, then they're going to get a much bigger paycheck that month. So it really leaves it up to them. It gives them a lot of flexibility, and it puts them in control of their earning potential, which I feel is extremely fair. It's generous, and it's what I would have wanted if I was still consulting.
It's beautiful because then you put them in charge of their own life, right? It's almost like they are tiny entrepreneurs. Each employee is a tiny entrepreneur. And, it's crazy because that's why I started my business. I drove to work for 10 years, about an hour and a half each way. And I went up the corporate ladder, all the way up, but I still had to do that drive. And I still had to have somebody else control my calendar. So those two things made me realize that I was trapped in a job. I actually wrote a book called Breaking Out of Corporate Jail, right? Because that's how I felt, right?
Right.
So when I opened my business, I had exactly the same idea. How can I build a company where even my employees feel free, right? And freedom, for me, ultimate freedom is when you can control your time. So for us, our culture is, I have people in 12 countries. And the people that we attract is people that have the entrepreneurial mindset, but they don't necessarily want to go get their own clients, right? So they end up, for example, one of my directors, graphic design, he was with us for 15 years. Why? Because he took he could take that month off. He could actually go get his kids from school at noon, or he could go to that soccer game at 3 p.m. and still perform, because the thing is that once you have that culture of freedom, then you also attract clients that enable that freedom. So our clients, as long as we deliver what we say we're going to deliver at the time, and we go above and beyond their expectations, they're going to be happy to pay the bills, right? So I always tell my people, you are required to be in every meeting that you agree to go to, but other than that, do your daily scrum. So we do a daily 15-minute check, and then go do your work, and God bless you, right? And if you need time, let us know, and then if the project allows, you will get the time.
Brings a very loyal culture to do that, right? It's more trust, more loyalty. You keep people longer. I think it promotes, just the high retention and low turnover when you actually put them in control and treat them with kindness and compassion. And, you don't want people advantaged by any means, but, hopefully you're not hiring the type of people that want to take advantage, right?
Well, yeah. So we have a lot of filters in place. We have seen it all. In 20 years, you see everything. And the people that are not a fit for the culture they will disqualify themselves out over time. So we have a very rigorous way of getting people in, but at the same time, during those 3-month probation period, even though they might be contractors, they have to earn their keep. They have to show that they are actually going to work, because otherwise somebody else in the team will have to make up for the lost work that they didn't do. And we work as a family, right? And at the end of the day, we are responsible for delivering, the projects to our clients. So that's why we're still in business, because every project has been successful. We had a couple of failures, but that was at the beginning of the company where we were figuring out how to do this remote work type thing,
Wasn't that a challenge? And now it seems like in nature, people work hybrid or they work remotely. So crazy that was 5 years ago.
Right? So your first company, you came with this mentality already, where you wanted to give a flexible freedom of time to your people and also add amazing value to your clients?
Well, I think inherently and intuitionally, I knew that in order to create a great culture of people that wanted to be there, that cared about your clients, that did a good job, you want them to feel valued. You don't want to put them in a box and stick them there and tell them what they have to do and when they have to do it and how they have to do it. You want to give people freedom and flexibility and kindness, and they're going to do a much better job for you, for your clients, for your company, than if you force them to do certain things and you make them feel like they're being punished, or you put all these restrictions on them. They're not going to perform as well. And so I don't know that I think of many business owners do get that, but I also think many business owners don't get that. And they say, no, you have to do this. You have to be here at 7:59 on the dot, no flexibility. And it's like, oh, dear God, I'd be fired in a heartbeat if you made me get there every morning at 7:59. What's wrong with 8:15? Does it have to be 8 hours? Can it be 6.5 hours one day and 8.5 the next? Obviously, HR rules and overtime, there's some caveats to that. And certain companies, if you work with Wall Street and you have to be your stock out, stock hours and whatnot, stock trading hours, it depends on certain industries, but there also should be some layer of flexibility and freedom. Otherwise, people are gonna rebel, or they're not going to be happy and they're not going to give you their best performance. So I just think for me, as I mentioned, intuitionally, I know that that's how you motivate people. And I knew that if I was going to start a company, I had to do that to keep people happy and to keep people wanting to work with me.
That's beautiful. It's amazing to see that, the same model that I have works in another type of environment. Tell me, you had partners at the beginning. What did you learn from that?
Well, I had the wrong partners. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was about 33 when I started my first company. And it was actually 6 weeks before my wedding that I started the company. And I met a man that thought he would be a really good partner for me. And we'd go 50-50. And he would help my book of business out while I got married and went on my honeymoon. And he already had a website. He had all these things started. So I thought, oh, that would be a great idea. I'll just partner with him. And Then 3 years go by and he's doing almost nothing, right? He has a full-time job. This is his side gig. And I built it to almost, close to $2 million in 3 years, my first company. And I was feeling very resentful that I was doing all the work and he owned half the company. And so I had a deep conversation with him about that. And we decided in 2016, he would be our full-time COO. And then in the same year, we decided to give another guy 10% equity. And so each of us gave up 5% to give this other man 10%. So the partnership dynamic was 45, 45, 10. And at that point in time, I had brought in 100% of all the business, and I had brought in all the employees, and all the processes and procedures and everything was mostly what I had developed. I mean, I'm not saying he was useless. He did a few things that were helpful at that point. But in 2017, the guys outvoted me as CEO. They were kind of like, hey, little girl, step aside. Let the big boys handle it now. They, are 22 years older than I am, and they thought that they could just do it better. I was the rainmaker. I brought in the business. Now let the big boys take over. That obviously didn't go over well, but I did accept my fate and stepped down as CEO, became the president of the organization, kind of dual presidents with my first partner. And then in 2018, they actually found a way to frame me, locked me out with security, took away all my access to everything. I've had a locksmith changing the locks as I was leaving.
Wow.
And said, you no longer work here. You still own 45% of the company, but you don't work here anymore. And we'll let you know what's going to happen from here on out. And so I wasn't going to let those men destroy everything I had built and determine my fate. So I ended up starting my second company, Optima Office, 3 days later. I spent the entire weekend getting cloud servers, QuickBooks files, insurance, corporate documents together, logo, websites.
I was fast.
Yeah, and I ended up having about 30 of the people, I think 27 to be exact, of the first firm came with me. And so I wasn't going to start out of my living room again like I did my first company. I immediately signed an office lease. So within a couple of weeks, I signed maybe a couple 1,000 square foot office space and had about 40 employees and just kind of went head to head with the guys. They obviously didn't like that. They didn't think that was going to happen. And so they sued me not to compete with them. And we had a huge 1.5 year long litigation, to which COVID actually stopped because we had a jury trial, and there was no jury trials in April of 2020. And so instead of the jury trial, we ended up settling. They had to buy out my 45% interest, and that made it so Optima had no debt. We were scot-free. At that point in time, we had 50 or 60 employees. And I believe our second year in business, we did just over 5 million in revenue. And so we've just grown substantially. Last year, we did it about 12.2. This year, we should do about 14. And, I'm much better off without the partners. But it was definitely a traumatic story, to say the least, when it was happening. But when I look back now, it was the biggest blessing and probably one of the best things that ever happened to me as a human. I did it on my own, and faster and better and way more fulfilling.
Yeah, it's amazing, but trouble is the only thing that gets you forward to the next level, right? When you are in your trials, your tribulations, you're like, why me, Lord, right? Like, this is not fair. Why is like I had the idea, I built this, and now they're taking it away from me. And if you even went through litigation, right? But now you're stronger, you're better, you're faster. Now you're independent, truly independent. Now you call the shots.
Yeah.
And so if this would, just imagine it would have been half as bad. Not as bad as it was, but half as bad. You still had those problems. You probably would have those problems for the rest of your life, because you were you could actually kind of sustain it, but it would have been horrible still with a lot of friction. Now if thing goes wrong, it's your fault. If thing goes right, it's because you did it, right?
I would say I have such an amazing team. It doesn't all fall on me at this point. I have, from the very beginning at this first company, at my second company, I said, I want to create an amazing management team, and I want them with me for a long time. And so in the last couple of years, we put a lot of time and effort into developing a long-term care incentive plan for my 6 of our executives, and it's stay with me for 10 years. I'll make sure that you get taken care of. Nobody has any equity, but here's my commitment to you. And there could be a couple $1 million in that account in the next 10 years. And so it's really rewarding a great team. And so it's not, I don't give myself all the credit. I really, with 100 employees, we have such a good group of people. I mean, I am so fortunate to have types of people that work here at Optima, especially our executive team.
That's beautiful, Jennifer. And that's another thing that entrepreneurs need to understand. If you want to have a real business, you need to master the art of delegation, right? And hire people better than you. So that actually is their job. I mean, ultimately you're responsible, right? But at the same time, you're pretty much at the level where I was able to get thanks to the Lord that gave me the wisdom and the problems.
Yeah.
Right. I also tried to get a partner 2 times, and the 2 times went horrible. We never made it to actual partnership.
Yeah.
But in that period we were like trying to engage, I realized that it wasn't for me. I still don't have partners, right? My wife is the co-founder of the company, and so she's part of the board of directors with me, but that's pretty much it, right? It's a family business. But I've seen many companies with partnerships that end up very, very, very bad. At the same time, I've seen companies with partnerships that end up very, very well too, right? I had the blessing of starting investing in startup companies early in my career because I'm in the software business. So these 2 ladies, they wanted to make this accounting software for schools because it was an underserviced market. And so they formed this business. One of them was the technical, process-oriented focus on delivering, and the other lady was the rainmaker. And they made such a beautiful company, and I invested in them because I was their main supplier. I wrote most of the platform, and at some point they were going down, so I was able to. They asked me if I could work for shares, so I did. I ended up grabbing 5% of that business, and I finished the platform in 2010, 2011, and then they ended up selling the business in 2013, and I had forgotten that I had those shares. By the time that they actually sold, they had so many investors that my 5% became like 0.5%. But still, it was a very significant amount of money that I received when that company got sold. And it was because of the 2 of them. Like the rainmaker didn't have anything about process, and the process lady didn't have anything about sales. So in that scenario, I could see how that worked, but they really trusted each other like systems, right?
Yeah.
But most cases that I've seen, and my personal experience is like you, is just horribleness.
I always say that partnerships can be so much more expensive than debt. And founders are often very, very afraid to take on debt, especially if they have to personally guarantee it. But if you think about it, let's say your company is worth $1 million and you give somebody 10% equity. You're like, you know what? I'm going to give them 10% because, X, Y, and Z. A 10% partner can be a pain in the butt, to be honest, sometimes. I've been there with a 10% partner. But more importantly, let's say you take that, you 10x that company, you take it from 1 million to 10 million. That partner now has $1 million is worth their 10% is worth. Well, what if you would just take it out a 7% loan back when you needed that help, and you paid somebody, even a few $100,000 a year or whatever it was, plus took out a loan? That would be so much cheaper than having to give somebody $1 million. Yeah. So you have to kind of weigh what is my exit plan? What do I eventually want to sell my company for? And then, take that into consideration when you give away equity, because it can be expensive.
Yeah. And, great. You touched a great point. Having the profit sharing program that you have, I have something similar too. Most people, that's what they want. They want to be able to get a bonus, or they want to be able to be compensated when the company sells. So the way I did it is something, it took me 5 years to research this because I have people in 12 countries, right? So doing this the normal way would have been impossible. But I have something called profit units. So the profit units, it honors the people that have been with me for a longer time, and it also honors their performance and the company performance. And they get remunerated at the end of the year. If we make profits, they get some of that because of their profit units. But also at the end, if we happen to sell the company, they will also have a nice chunk of money at the end. But it's not, they are not legal partners, right? It's not enforced in the same way as you're actually giving away your equity, because I'm not giving away my equity. I'm giving away a profit sharing portion of the company, right? Which is what they want, right? People want, and they should, right? They should get compensated for the amount of effort that they put into the business, right? So it motivates everybody, and it makes it very clean legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, companies that buy out other companies love buying companies with single owners because it's so much simpler, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I get solicited at probably 3 to 5 times every single week as to sell Optima. My space is rolling up a lot. A lot of large CPA firms, private equity firms coming in and buying up fractional accounting and CFO companies, and even in the HR space. And so I've always said, I have no interest in selling. I don't have an exit plan right now. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll consider something like an ESOP and give the company back to the company to the employees. But I love what I'm doing. We're not for sale. I really like being able to provide opportunities to these people that work here. And I feel like we're doing good for the business ecosystem, right? Making sure companies have good financials, good processes. They're not going to get sued by their employees for, having a bunch of blind spots. And so, yeah, I just feel like what we're doing is really, really good. And I want to keep doing it and building and growing and, hiring more amazing people. So that's my exit plan, is keep doing what we're doing and kindly turn away everybody that wants to buy us.
It's also a good point. It's a good point. I mean, if you're doing good, my dad used to always say, why would you kill the cow that feeds you, right? I mean, yeah, a big buyout will give you a very large amount of money, but then you really have to figure out, this is what faith comes in, right? Like, what does God wants to do with you? Do you, like, time plus money is not necessarily better unless you know what you're going to do with that time and with that money. And if you're creating the revenue consistently anyways, it's like I told people, like, I didn't get to where I am because of my large, smart way of delivering businesses or anything like that. It was just a consistent drop of water over 20 years. It accumulated all those revenues, all those earnings, like everything that we have done, even with the bad years, because, we also had bad years. But when you see over time, if you invest smart, I'm in a position where, like, if people would like to buy out the company, it will have to be a very big number, because otherwise it will make no sense. Like, why would I sell something that is stable, that has a reputation, where my employees love the company, where I'm adding value, where I get the chance to actually talk about my faith too, because I'm the owner. And, sometimes people like to hear it, sometimes they don't. So I respect that too. But you know what? The freedom that I have, right? How much more money will I need to compensate for that? And what will I do with my time afterwards? Right?
I completely agree with you, 100%. I feel the exact same way. You could say, oh, I want 20 million for Optima, and I'd say no. What? That's not going to make me any happier. What would I do differently with my life? Nothing. I like my life the way it is. I love my family. I love my friends. I love the company. I love what we're doing. I love that we're giving back. I mean, we service about 15% of our clients are nonprofits. So we're talking like 50 plus companies, 50 plus nonprofits get support from us. And, I think that if we were to sell out and, have somebody buy us, they'd want more profits. They'd want more margin. They would cut employees' pay. They would offshore more. And I have no interest in supporting that. So kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's for sure. And it's very nice. I mean, and if you want more time, you can always do what I did. I retired myself out because of the power of delegation. So the last thing that I did is I hired my replacement 3 years ago. And that's why I get the blessing to have this channel, for example, and have this podcast. I still oversee the company, but I almost feel like I was already sold the business, because my involvement might be, a couple of hours a week, if so. And the company is doing okay. It might be doing better without me,
That's funny.
So tell tell me what's in the future. I mean, we've been talking about this. I know you're happy with this, but you gotta have a plan, right? So where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5
Mhm.
years from now. Hopefully we're doing over 20 million in revenue. We have 150 plus employees. We're nationwide and also international, supporting way more businesses than we are right now. And I have a 2-year-old, so 5 years from now he'll be 7. And 5 years from now I'll be 50. I'm 45 right now. So, at 50 years old, running a $20 million company, giving back to the community, maybe starting a foundation or nonprofit, buying a building in San Diego so that we could, have a great workplace for our employees, but also, have some good events and, rent some of the office space out. That's about as far ahead in the future as I can think about right now. Maybe 15 years from now, I would consider selling the company, but that'd be when I'm approaching 60. So,
Right.
and I'll still have a 15 years from now, I'll have a 17-year-old. He won't even be in college yet. So, time.
Oh, life was great, and I think the Lord that you are on the right track and you're blessing people. When you do what you love and you're adding value, you're really showing the face of Christ, right? This is where I believe it's better to actually do what Jesus wants you to do than actually just keep talking about Jesus and then your life is horrible, because that's an oxymoron, right? So you're a clear example of how to live a well-balanced life while also showing love and kindness to people. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
Jennifer, I know you're a busy executive. It's been almost 40 minutes. I'll ask you one last question before we finish the podcast.
Sure.
If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
Oh my goodness gracious. Probably something about kindness, or don't drive in the left-hand lane slow. Move over. Be kind, help someone, and don't drive slow in the left lane.
Well, both things that you said talks about the second biggest commandment, right? People were asking Jesus, what are the 2 biggest commandments? And he said, the number 1 is love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. And the second is love your neighbor as you love yourself. So what you wrote on that billboard is both, because if you want to love your neighbor, teach them to be kind, and start by you being kind. And also don't drive, slow in the fast lane. It's you being kind to other people so that, you are not bothering people with your misbehavior, right? So it's both, right? It's about loving your neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jennifer, if people like to find out more about your business, or if they would like to become your clients, where can they find you?
Sure. OptimaOffice.com. You can email me, Jennifer, at OptimaOffice.com. A lot of people like to call us on the phone, and our number is pretty easy. It's 858-283-1234.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's awesome.
I had to pick from like 100 numbers, and I saw that one. I was like, done. Make it easy.
Jennifer, God bless you. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Let me go.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching another episode of Anchoring Hope, where we're shining the light in these last days and hoping for the best, because the best is in the Bible. Please share this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also check other social media for more content. And as always, remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and I love you too.